Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to the show. This is, let's see, episode 4 of our T34 series, and this one is all about creating the base for both the T34 and that little burnt out car we did in episode 3. This diorama base is going to be a little bit involved, so buckle up. This is going to be quite the ride. Of course, the first thing I want to do is decide on my layout, and of course I have indecision, and so I'll change my mind here in just a second, because one of the things when I was looking through references that really caught my eye was this image. And in particular, that statue in the background. I thought, well, let's use a statue as a centerpiece of this little Berlin diorama, including Haslow's tossed around cars, so it pretty much fit my scene very well. So I started down that path initially. I went so far as to order this little Frederick the Great out of white metal. Yep, there he is, and he was going to be my feature on my statue. I gave Frederick a bath in some burnishing fluid, which is great because it made him look just like a bronze statue out there in the weather. And I even went so far as to build a plinth for him. So I was ready to go, but then as I started working on this layout and putting him and the statue into the scene, it just didn't quite work. So I had to back up a little bit and rethink it. So not a big concern, but whatever. With that all said, the basic layout stayed about the same. So instead of the plinth and the statue in the background, I'm going to be putting a building there and some rubble. And the rubble is really actually going to be one of the key features in this diorama. So we'll get to that in due course. So where the car is going to sit, I'm carving out a little bit of, this will be basically an anti-tank sort of obstacle in this area here. So there's a bomb crater, or they've dug it out, or something to that effect. And this car is sitting in this little bit of a crater. So the first thing I want to do is just kind of start, again, laying out the scene. I've got a little bit of depression for that car to start to fit into, a little bit of dry fitting going on there. And then as I'm moving across the base, of course, this is going to be a cobblestone road. So I'm laying out a basic grid pattern here that I'll start using to carve the bricks into this pink foam. Well, if you ever want to know what I do on my Saturday and Sunday afternoons, well, something quite a bit like this. I draw a lot of little lines across pink foam, which is not the most fun thing in the world to do. I draw more lines across pink foam in order to individualize these bricks, and then I come back and I take my little scalpel tool here, this little dental tool or whatever it is, and just go back around each individual brick, and that just helps refine them and give them each a little bit of personality. Now, honestly, this isn't that bad of a task, and, just put on some nice tunes or listen to a podcast, and, about 40 days later, you're done. One of the prevalent features often seen on the streets of Berlin are the tram tracks, or little rail tracks that run down the middle of the streets. And I decided, well, let's go ahead and add those onto this scene as well. No real measurements here. I'm playing this pretty loose. I just used the width of my ruler. That's going to be the gauge of my rails. Who knows how accurate that is, but it's going to look okay. And actually, in the end, a lot of this isn't even noticeable because it's going to be covered up by the T34. But anyway, just cut a couple of strips out of the blue foam, or the pink foam, excuse me. And then I'm using a little bit of half round and just tucking those into the groove right there, and those will become my rails. And I've secured those in place into the grooves using a little bit of magic sculpt. So a little bit of magic sculpt in the bottom, and then just press those into this magic sculpt, and that holds it nice and secure. Another feature that I want to add to my scene are these roadblocks, these tank traps or whatever they are. And what they've done is they've cut down trees or telephone poles or whatever, and they've countersunk them into the earth, and these become tank traps or roadblocks. And I want to incorporate that idea into my scene as well. So first thing I need to do is, I guess, make some trees. And yes, I probably could have just gone outside and found some sticks and used those, but what fun is that? So let's go ahead and make some tree trunks here. So I have a little bit of magic sculpt that I've kneaded together, and now on my little tray here, I've got some baby powder, and that keeps everything from sticking. And then I've got a little piece of copper pipe, and I'm just using that as a rolling pin, and I'm just going to roll this out until I have something that's really nice and smooth. And of course, this is exactly the same technique you were going to use if you're going to be, say, making tarps or blankets or something like that. It's the exact same process. Once I have that magic sculpt all rolled nice and thin, I'll take one of my little plastic tubes, and those are the bases of my trees, and I just give it a little roll there just to cover the exterior of the plastic with the magic sculpt. Give it a little bit of a trim, tidy up the ends, push a little bit of magic sculpt down. Those, I'll have to come back and fix those up a little bit later because, of course, we don't want indentations. But for the time being, this is going to be good enough. And then the next thing I want to do is add a little bit of texture to these. And here we go back with my blue bowl of good stuff, and I've got these little bark chips and pieces of wood and such in there. And I'm just imprinting natural grain texture into the magic sculpt. and this will give it a nice, well, natural looking bark finish. When you look at the photographs of the Battle of Berlin, one of the key features that really stands out is just how much rubble and debris and chaos and everything is just piled up in the middle of the streets. There's basically no room to walk, and I want to be able to kind of capture that claustrophobic atmosphere in this scene as well, and that's going to take a lot of rubble. My rubble is going to be primarily two sources. I've got some plaster that I've made that I'm just going to crunch up and make into all sorts of little bits and pieces and just debris in general. And I've got a few in this bowl here of just leftover cork bricks from another project. I'll be needing to make more, but we'll get to that in a little bit. First thing I want to do is I want to get this little car set into its little crater here. So I've dug out the pink foam, and I've got the car at a tilt. I've kind of got it figured out where it's going to be. And every layer that I start adding to this base is going to have a little bit of debris and a little bit of rubble because I want to make sure it looks authentic. And now in order to place the car basically almost permanently, or at least get the permanent location, I've got plaster, and that's the white stuff there in the bottom of the little trench. And I've got a little bit of clean wrap or clear wrap over the top of that just to keep the car from getting all yucky. And now I'm just going to press the car in there and get it to its final angle and shape. Once I have everything pretty much in place, I'll have to come back and touch things up, of course. Then I can go ahead and take the car off plastic wrap. It should be pretty clean. Take the clean wrap off, and there I have my little plaster pedestal. So now I've got my little tree trunks, and I want to countersink those into this area as well before the plaster gets too hard. And now we have the makings of a roadblock. Of course, once again, and this is it's going to be like a broken record on this diorama, but once again, even though a lot of this will be covered up in later steps, I'm coming back in right off the bat with a layer of rubble, and this is just over a little bit of white PVA glue just to start adding a little base layer onto this, because you just never know what's going to kind of poke through in the end. So you just want to make sure everything is nice and, I don't know, chaotic in this case. We have a lot more to do here, so don't go away. But before we get too much further along, I just ask you, if you like this channel, please hit that like and subscribe. And I do want to give a real big shout out and thank you to my Patreons. The link for the Patreon page is down below. Please check that out. On the Patreon page, we do have early viewings of these videos. I post photographs of the work in progress, and just this last week, I added a Discord service to help us communicate and chat with one another, and there'll be extra features coming along there as well. So please take a look at Patreon and consider joining. Okay, let's get back to the show. Well, the next thing I want to tackle is the building that's going to be in the background here. I began by making just a little bit of a base, a little bit of a footprint where the building's going to stand, and actually it's supposed to simulate a little bit of sidewalk, but in the end, this will not even be seen. And then I've got my building kind of started here, and as compared to some of my other building projects in some of the previous series, I'm kind of winging this one as I go here. You might be able to tell because it looks kind of jumbled and kind of a mess. Again, this is made out of foam core. Kind of have an idea what I want to do here, but so the building's going to sit on that back corner again, something kind of like that. That little car is going to sit in that front corner. Now what I want to do is start giving a little bit of personality, a little character to this building. So I'll need to cut out a few windows here and there. Yeah, I know. It's a little hard to visualize what's going to happen with this building at the moment. Yeah, these windows, well, they're windows, but the building really still does not have a lot of personality or even definition to it. Hopefully we'll take care of that in the next steps. Well, there's really no quick way of doing this. I need a lot of bricks on this scene. So I've got some cork here. This is, I think, 1 millimeter. It comes in rolls. And I'm just cutting out these real thin little strips of the cork. And these are basically the width of each brick, or the width of the brick. And once I have these cut, and I need a pile of these. So what you see on the corner of the board there is just a start. Then let's start making individual bricks. And this is, yeah, another kind of long, tedious process here. And let's speed it up. I wish I was going this fast all along. And that bowl, by the time I'm done in the corner, that became all full of little bricks. So yeah, we're just getting started here. So anyway, one brick at a time. Once I've created my pile of bricks, I move back over to the building. And I just want to lay some basic guidelines across the facade here just to make sure I keep everything straight. Yeah, we're going to brick up this building with those cork pieces. So this will just help me make sure everything stays aligned and my brick pattern just doesn't start wandering all over the place. And now's probably a pretty good time to cue the music, Another Brick in the Wall by Pink Floyd. And here we go, another afternoon full of fun and pleasure. Once again, this is not hard to do. It just takes some time, and it's actually quite relaxing. So as long as you just settle down and go for it, it really doesn't take that long. I think this entire building, this facade to put all the bricks on, that was probably about, I don't know, maybe 3 to 4 hours worth of work. So it really doesn't take that long. It's just a matter of staying with it and working your way across and taking care of all the little details, of course, running around the edges here. And then I'll run the bricks across the entire facade. And then once I'm done, I can just come back on these certain areas and just tidy up a little bit, make sure everything looks nice and clean, and we're ready to move on to the next step. Well, that next step is to add the plaster between the bricks. And for that, I'm using a little bit of wall plaster, and I've thinned that down with a little bit of water. And that just makes it a little bit easier to spread and helps it squish down in between those individual bricks. There's actually something kind of satisfying about this step because you know you're getting kind of close to the end. And it's just take some time, squish it down in there, and clean off the excess. Once the plaster's on and dry, I need to add some little bit of trim to those windows just to tidy those up a little bit using plastic strip. Just cut some little pieces there, and those will start to become the window frames. And those just fit there, and they're held in place with a little bit of white glue, and then actually I'm tacking the corners together with just a little bit of plastic cement. First I work on this lower window, get that one all ready to go, and then we'll move right upstairs and take care of this top window. And you can start to see how the building's starting to come together now. It's starting to look like, I don't know, corner of a bombed out building. And actually, quite frankly, I'm thinking maybe I don't even need to paint it because that plaster and the natural cork color look pretty good. But we'll paint it anyway. But here's the building as it stands, and it will be in the back of that corner. And then that will give us time to move on to the next episodes, which we're going to continue to work on this space. And yep, we're going to bring out the tinfoil. So yep, the tinfoil hat brigade, get ready. Here we go. And we're going to be making a lot of rubble, and we're going to be, again, just adding to this base. There's a lot to do here. So please stick with me for that. Again, if you like this channel, please hit that like and subscribe button. It does help get this channel to more and more viewers. And again, I do have a Patreon page. The link for that is below. I suggest and hope that you go check that out. And until then, take care, guys. Happy modeling, and we'll see you soon.